Hey everybody, sorry about the delay. Always trying to get all the platforms going here. My actual page, my Jamie Singleton Facebook page, isn't posting this live video, so I'm trying to share the post from my meteorologist page real fast to that. Shouldn't take but a second here. Just give me 1 second. Everything's developing right on time, just as we really expected here. There we go. Okay, now we've got it on most places that we want to be. We've seen a very strong increase in storms, a very sudden increase in thunderstorm activity, and that's because everything's coming together. We're getting the jet stream dynamics to come into play now, and I know a lot of you are sitting around today going, okay, where's the tornado threat? Where are the storms? Because you probably looked at the radar and saw just some light rain in the mountainous areas of the New River Valley, Southwest Virginia, coming out of West Virginia. It wasn't that impressive in Roanoke. Gusty winds, and that's about it. But what's happening now is we're getting the outflow from that rain, and it's moving into an area that's more buoyant. We don't have a super amount of buoyancy even in the eastern areas, but we've got way more buoyancy than we had in Blacksburg. In fact, they set up a 18Z sounding from the National Weather Service in Blacksburg, and there was almost no instability off to the west. And so if you are watching here, there are a couple things to note. If you're watching back here across the Roanoke Valley into Christiansburg, Blacksburg, into Floyd, and even in the Fincastle up across the Lexington area, your severe threat has pretty much ended. However, if you are watching along and east of a line from Rocky Mount to Bedford to Glasgow and the Amherst and Nelson County, especially in the Bedford area right now, we've got a very strong storm that has just developed over the lake in the past few minutes here. And right on time, we said about 6 o'clock would be the time to watch, and that's what's happening. Everything's firing up, and that's moving off to the north and east. We see a lot of lightning in this cell and a little bit of rotation, too. We've been looking at the winds coming toward and away from the radar there, basically looking at a very probably more outflow dominant right now, but we're also looking at a little bit of inflow there, convergence right along the outer gust of this. So this could be producing some straight line winds as it approaches Bedford, but that could kink up as well. We still do have both a tornado threat and a straight line wind threat. There's also a new cell that's developing here in East Patrick County going into Henry County. I'm going to be watching that very closely. So let me zoom it back out and show you the cells as they're developing and becoming severe. You've got one kind of up here north of Charlottesville. That's we've just got a warning out for that. You've got a special weather statement in effect for northern Amherst County, a special weather statement out for the lake, something developing here. That's a favored area, by the way, South Patrick County going into Henry County. And then you've got some more development down here near Winston-Salem. And all this is moving off to the north and to the east, while the wind behind it is kind of pushing in, bringing in colder air and more stable air from the west. So it's that convergence that we see, things really starting to pick up. And we're also looking at things aloft, and I'll show you that too and why. Hopefully you enjoy the Patreon post this week. I tried to really put a lot of thought and energy into it, but we'll go through some of these right now. Let's go first to Bedford. I know I've got a lot of folks watching in Bedford. That's an intense storm, some probably gusty winds in excess of, I'd say, 40. Let's see what we're showing on the radar. About 40 miles per hour here in these brighter colors. And the fact that we've got green kind of coming in, I'm not worried about rotation with this per se, but I am looking at probably a lot of straight line wind. And I want to keep in mind with you here that straight line winds can produce damage comparable to a weak tornado in the right conditions, and we do have some of those conditions today. So this is more than likely a bow echo of straight line winds north of Manita, nearing the Bedford area and just to the south of there, and you can see the lightning strikes updating around Good and Bedford, well away from the storm. So if you hear thunder, it's time to get inside and get away from this particular cell. One thing that's tricky here is sometimes we see supercells and these rotating storms develop on their own. They're discrete, what we call discrete, and they're severe at times as well. But this is happening within rainfall. So let's say we do see something spin out of this. We're not going to be able to see it because we've got heavy rain all over the area. It's raining at nearly 2 inches an hour here at the TV station. And I'm down here in the on the back edge of this red down here in Franklin County. So we are getting some beneficial rainfall. It's coming all at once, of course, but we'll take what we can get. But that's also going to cause some hydroplaning and some flooding issues of low-lying areas just because it's raining so fast out there. Northern Amherst County too, in Lynchburg, we can't ignore you, but you can see, look at that Bedford storm. It's jumping out at me in terms of the lightning jump that we've seen in just the past few minutes. We'll put this in motion over the past 45 minutes or so. Let's see how long this loop is. I believe it's about an hour. About an hour and 10 minutes. You can see how that's really ramped up, and it's even got, you've got a straight line wind component to that, but you've also got on the northern edge maybe a little bit of a spin there. So we'll have to watch and see if that broad rotation develops into anything. So if you live in Evington, Rustburg, and Lynchburg, you need to kind of be on guard for this particular cell as it continues to move on off to the north into the east. They're developing real fast now, and I expected that to happen. We had a slow development this afternoon, and now that the energy's come in aloft, everything's kind of coming together basically and producing these cells that are developing out of thin air too around Alta Vista. You see that one cell there. So don't pay too close attention, and I say this a lot, to the cells that are already on radar. While they are, strong and getting stronger, there will be new development out of thin air just because we have so much going on in the atmosphere for the next, say, hour or two, and then things will begin to progress closer in the Halifax and Charlotte Courthouse and Farmville and areas like Mecklenburg County, Chase City. I am watching too Farmville. I've got folks that watch me out here, Dinwiddie, Jarrett, Emporia, Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, watching this area because as this line continues to move off to the east, it's going to try to kink in places and try to rotate in places as well. I want to pull up another GR2 analyst, which is the program you're looking at, and I'm going to go up to the radar that's in Sterling because they are seeing severe weather up around DC at this hour. So we're going to put this back to one panel here. We're going to change our radar site to Sterling. You can see Gaithersburg there under a severe thunderstorm warning. Charlottesville is under a severe thunderstorm warning. Let's read you this one. And we'll wait for that data to come in. There you see the cell that's prompted that around Hollymead. That's for the city of Charlottesville, southwest Orange County, northeastern Albemarle County, southeast Greene County until 6:45. We've got the severe thunderstorm over Charlottesville, now moving out of Charlottesville. Trailing heavy rain behind it, though. It's moving northeast at 30. A quarter-size hail and 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts are possible. And again, if you've got a 60-mile-per-hour wind gust, whether it's spinning or whether it's straight, the impact is going to be the same. You're going to have some down trees and down power lines and maybe some structural damage as well. Of course, we hone in on the tornado threat, but we don't want to diminish the threat that's caused by ordinary straight-line winds. And the fact of the matter is, we've got both of them on the table for areas east of the Blue Ridge and really east of Smith Mount Lake at the moment, but I'm watching the Bedford area as well. So we're looking up north here around Warrington and Manassas just to get an idea of what the atmosphere is capable of. I like to read storm reports out of our local area just to see what these storms are doing across other parts of the Mid-Atlantic area. Fairfax County, we've got a tree down on Frying Pan Road near Sunrise Drive. We had a 64-mile-per-hour gust measured by the mesonet there in Fairfax County, and they did put a warning out, the National Weather Service in Sterling. More heavier rain up around Baltimore. So it's a big system. It's going to affect a lot of people. And by the way, if you're watching here on TikTok or wherever, we've got another one coming up across the south for Wednesday, and then moving into the Carolinas and then Virginia Thursday and the Friday as we enter Halloween weekend. There's certainly been a big lightning jump here now in southern Franklin County. These cells are starting to get their act together as well. We've got a brand new special weather statement in effect for Henry County, Spencer, going into horse pasture, it looks like, north of Sandy Ridge. That's a mean looking storm, and there is a lot of rotation with this one. It's kind of broad at the moment, but this is jumping out at me. And every time I do tornado coverage, it seems that once we cross the mountains here out of Patrick County, once we get to around Henry Patrick County line, geography changes, and the stretching of the rotation that's already in the storm is tighter as it happens. And there's been research done on that. But this is indeed, it doesn't take meteorologists to see the reds and the greens getting pretty close together there. So that's a rotating storm, and I'm watching National Weather Service chat over here off the screen. That's a private chat that we can use. All the meteorologists use it to convey the latest information. So we're seeing embedded storms developing in here. There's an inflow notch showing up, and let me show you why I'm watching that. This is a notch of low reflectivity within the thunderstorm that is indicative of the updraft. So we're seeing a bit of an updraft there and another one there north of Sandy Ridge, while the rear flank downdraft is starting to punch in on the west side of this. And so, something could start spinning. Something already is spinning, it's in a broad sense, but if we get something to tighten that up, we're going to have some issues out there, and we'll see a warning come out if that continues. But this is moving very close to Spencer. So if you're in the Spencer area, in the horse pasture area, there's 58. You need to kind of hunker down, be away from windows. Treat this like you would a severe thunderstorm or tornado warning, even though it's just a special weather statement, because this is strengthening. And the National Weather Service, you can bet, is watching this with each scan as we are here. And so a lot of times when I cover the weather like this, you'll hear me say, location, you need to hunker down, and then the warning may come out as we're saying it or shortly thereafter. So I want to give you an early heads up in Spencer and horse pasture. Would not be surprised if we get a warning for this area as this cell continues to move on up to the north and east, and that could affect the horse pasture area as well. You're already getting the gusty wind and the rain as well, and the lightning. So let's go elsewhere, look at the northern Henry County area. Now we're looking at Stanleytown, because go back to reflectivity, there's a little bit of a notch there. It's kind of hard to see because of the rain, but I do see another area of potential spin that's developing, that's going away from the radar. And again, the radar's up in Floyd County, so we're referring to wind that's relative to that dot, all right? And then you've got the greens trying to come closer toward the radar. There's another little notch. There's just so much wind shear that each of these little showers is developing into a spinning area that hasn't got its act together just enough for a warning, but certainly may produce a wall cloud, a lowering cloud, and may be pretty ominous out there. This one, to me, is the most impressive right now, southwest Henry County. I'm going to take a look at a couple other things here. It's still pretty broad. Getting a bit of I'm looking at the size of the droplets off the radar to see if I see a ZDR arc. That can happen because of the updraft sorting out the rain drop sizes. Believe it or not, there's research on that suggests that could be indicative of maybe a little lowering in the correlation coefficient here. We'll see. I don't see any warning coming out that how high are we up here? Let's see. 3,000 feet. This is at 2,000 feet. There may be some leaves and stuff suspended in the air. I think we're looking at a little bit of debris being shown where the yellows are. Anywhere that's cranberry is just rain. We don't have to worry about that. But when we start seeing these yellow specks, that's telling us it's something else that the radar is hitting, and it's not the raindrops, so it's something else. And usually in a case like this, it's some debris. But, you know, even small particles can cause that correlation coefficient to drop. We now do have a severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect for the city of Lynchburg, Amherst, approaching Gladstone. That does include northern Evington and includes Bedford as well. It's a pretty big bow echo there with maybe a kink on the north side of it. We've also now got a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for south side, including Danville, Lynchburg, Martinsville, Halifax, Henry County, Rockingham, Stokes, Caswell County, North Carolina, Buckingham, and Danville, Lynchburg, basically all the way to Henry County until 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, the weather will be over by then, the bad stuff, but through the next few hours, it's going to get rough in that area. So basically along this red line where you see all the reflectivity getting high there and the heavier colors, and just off to the east. So I'm going to read you the statement of this warning, and we'll put this in motion too so you can get an idea of where that warning developed, why that warning developed, and what we're looking at with that. And get the text over here. Close out that box. 6:24, National Weather Service in Blacksburg's got a severe thunderstorm warning for northwest Appomattox, northwestern Campbell County. And now I'm going to stop this loop and give you the latest image there. As you see there, Lynchburg, take cover. This is a severe thunderstorm warning, not a tornado warning, but they are tagging it as radar indicated max hail size of 1 inch. I don't see a tor possible on this. Let's see. Yeah, just kind of a messy look to the wind field. If you know, there could be something in here trying to spin. Looks like we've got, again, more of a straight line punch of wind that's coming out of Bedford. So if you look here, you can see, let me go to this color. This is strong straight line wind. So you've got a bow echo here. Now, in Forest, you've also got some wind coming fast away, and you've got a little bit of wind coming toward the radar, so there's some weak rotation north of Forest. Then there's just some strong straight line winds as these storms are converging. So this is a messy, hard to pick out little subtle areas of rotation. And so I think the Weather Service very smartly kind of broad brushed this whole area of storms because they kind of merged with the rain that was already developing. And we're seeing this, you can almost kind of pick out that rotation there near Bedford. That may be the meso low itself, but I tell you, we are getting some bowing segments in here too. Anything that looks like a backward C is where you could be looking at very strong straight line winds. So if you're getting something out there and it's safe, definitely let me know. You can snap a picture or put them in the comments. I read every single one of them. I may not get to them right away. But right now I'm seeing embedded areas, and even around Manita now, I'm seeing embedded areas of wind that's blowing straight across from southwest to northeast, away from the radar. Now, the thing you've got to watch is that even with straight line winds, you can see on the north end, you get what's called a bookend vortex that can spin. And that looks like that's occurring near Bedford and again, just to the south of the Big Island area. Not nearly tight enough to warrant a tornado warning at the moment. But again, that's something to kind of keep in mind. But a severe thunderstorm warning should be treated today in this environment as a tornado warning just in case. We also now have a large severe thunderstorm warning for this other cell here. That's got the more impressive and the tighter rotation. I'm telling you, maybe some hail in this as well near Spencer and Ridgeway. So let me zoom this back out. That includes Callens. Union Hall is in this severe thunderstorm warning, and that is in effect until 7:30 p.m. National Weather Service has that over Spencer. That's the rotating cell. You see the red and the green right there. So let me put up a marking here for folks kind of tuning right in so that it kind of grabs their attention. We do want to indicate where storms are rotating. I'm not going to call for a tornado in some areas, but I think I should let you know and not hide from you the fact that the storms are rotating. Not that anyone's doing that, but I just think you've got the right to know it's not an ordinary severe thunderstorm warning. There is some spin. and there's some spin in Franklin County as well there north of Snow Creek. Kind of watching that around the East Lake area of Franklin County in the next few minutes. National Weather Service is saying, of course, the 60-mile-per-hour straight line winds, quarter-sized hail possible. Movements to the northeast at 35 miles per hour. So any hail, of course, will damage vehicles. Wind damage to roofs, siding, trees. Again, if it's spinning, it can do that wind damage. Without a tornado, it can just be kind of brought down by the spin itself around it because it's such a broad area of spin. If it tightens up a little bit more, we're going to have a tornado warning. All right. That's if it continues to tighten, and we just got a new scan in. So let's investigate and see what's going on. And we're going to look for debris and things in the air. I think we're picking up on some leaves in the air too on our correlation coefficient. You see that it's the diminished here. It's not cranberry. It's definitely going in the yellow, and it's going in the orange, but it's not like a circle, a complete circle. And if it were a tornado, you would see that. This is more than likely trees and little parts of leaves, parts of trees and things, mainly just leaves that are blowing around up in the air, causing that return to look like that on the correlation coefficient. But the city of Martinsville, and especially, Collinsville, Stanleytown is now just to your east, but some gusty winds certainly with this. A ton of lightning around the Chatmoss Ridgeway area. You need to watch out because even though the storm is itself, the rain near closer to the Spencer and horse pasture, from Price to Ridgeway, you're still getting a lot of lightning. And to bring up a point, notice that around Sandy Level, there's no rain, but there's a lot of lightning here occurring. And so lightning can travel up to 10, 15 miles away from the storm. You do need to always remember, if you can hear thunder, you need to be indoors. When thunder roars, go indoors. And the other thing we do is we respect the polygon. So, if you're on the edge of a polygon, where you live, you need to, get in an interior room away from windows. That's the main thing. You don't want to be close to a window and have a sudden gust of wind come. And even if the window doesn't blow out, something could blow into the window. And it may not even be that big of an object. But if you get a 30 or 40 mile per hour wind, you'd be surprised how strong that is, even though that's not technically severe. So these storms that are outside of the polygon that they put out the special weather statements for, they're producing winds over 30, 40 miles per hour in addition to torrential rain. You'd be surprised how intense that appears to you if you're trying to drive through it or you're kind of gazing out your window. That'll do a little damage. That'll blow your lawn furniture around, and that'll take down some weak trees and some tree limbs, certainly. Rocky Mount, I think we're okay right now. If the town's watching, I think we're in the clear in Rocky Mount, but off to the east is where I'm very concerned. Ridgeway and this cell coming out of Martinsville, the cell over Smith Lake is also very intense, and they may have to put another warning out for this particular cell here that's right over the lake area. North Shore Pinhook getting slammed right now with some very heavy rainfall. We're going to look at the storm relative velocity and the velocity, and there doesn't appear to be anything right over the lake, but I am again watching this area. Let's see, right there. There's some broad, kind of stretched out spin that's trying to get going south of Union Hall in Franklin County. It's not huge, it's not crazy right now, but it certainly stands out to me. And that's within the warning area. That's within the polygon. So we're going to continue to advise you that if things continue in this direction, we could see something more serious like a tornado warning be issued. It's one of those things where the conditions are somewhat favorable. They are not tagging this with, and I say they, the National Weather Service is not tagging this with tornado possible. Sometimes they do that. I'm not seeing that in the official statement at all, but certainly to me looks like we've got enough rotation to say that would be possible. I'm looking at different levels. We're looking up into the storm now, and again I'm looking at this area here between Spencer and Ridgeway, and as I go up in elevation I still see that rotation. So we do have rotation all the way up into the atmosphere up to 13,000 feet. This whole thing is spinning. And so it's safe to say that's a supercell thunderstorm. It's a rain-wrapped supercell storm. So if we start to see a wall cloud out of this or a funnel cloud, it's going to be almost impossible to see unless you're down here in Sandy Level looking up to the north and west of it. And there are storm chasers on Twitter in the area now. We've got a pretty amazing amount of storm chasers now in southwest and south central Virginia. Chris White's one of them. We've got some graduates of tech that do a heck of a job now, and folks in the Lynchburg area too. I'm trying to they tag me on the Twitter feed. So if you go to my Twitter at Jamie Singleton, you're going to get real-time updates coming from the National Weather Service and my two other sources that automatically post on my behalf when these alerts are coming out. That's kind of a secondary way to get the information. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw an urban flood advisory too for Lynchburg. Look at all that lightning, all that heavy rainfall. That's coming down at a really hard clip. And when I look at this product here, this is the KDP product. This looks at how much rain is bending the wavelength of the radar beam, or shifting the phase is the technical term. Bigger raindrops, heavier rainfall, a bigger concentration of moisture in the air will show up here as the green and the purple and the lighter green colors here through Amherst County. So this is showing me that we've got a whole lot of moisture, a whole lot of water just sitting in the air there. I'm looking too to see if I see any hail in here, and I see maybe some small hail in Lynchburg City, probably pea-sized, but with a severe thunderstorm you can also get that to really ramp up very quickly to it, even in between radar scans. Once you get an updraft, to get into the freezing level there and take that moisture up into a sub-freezing area of the cloud. I do want to look at the updraft strength of this storm here. Give me 1 second. We're going to go 3D. I'm going to pop on ZDR. That's looking out again at the shape of the drops. We're going to go in the Henry County right now. So I know this looks blocky and it's kind of confusing, but let me get your bearings. So there's Henry County. That's looking straight down. All right. We're going to take a slice of that storm where you see that line, and I'm going to look at ZDR. So now we're going to tilt this, and I want to see if we see anything above red or above the orange and red going up to the freezing level, which is about 11,000 feet. And right there, that's showing me that there's a strong amount of rising motion in the atmosphere. So going up into the air here. Let's see. That's a strong updraft. So those are bigger raindrops that are being suspended by the rising motion that's created when a storm develops like that. And the fact that it's not showing up as these small needle-like things that are actually ice crystals. So the freezing line is right here. So the thought process is this: if you're getting big raindrops that are not frozen in air that is freezing, you've got enough updraft strength to punch that through. So that KDP or that ZDR spike there shows a strong updraft, and that's probably one of the reasons too the Weather Service put that warning out. And you know, it takes a lot of training to look for that and look at other things at the same time. If you go back just a few minutes, you actually see even more of one. And that volume scan's impressive. So let's see if I can. It's kind of closer to my head right there, but you get your freezing level, and you got these red big fat raindrops showing up there in red well above the freezing level. So that's about the time the warning was issued, and we're looking through the storm now. And I know it's blocky, but I like to take out the smoothing when I'm looking at actual data. That is going very high above the freezing level, or sufficiently high enough for that warning. So certainly that's your most intense updraft. And even this one getting up to about 15,000 feet there. That was in Henry County. So yeah, that was an updraft that went all the way up to about the freezing level, and then above it, showing you that that storm is indeed intense, and that's why we do have a severe thunderstorm warning that remains in effect for that area. 2 warnings in effect. Actually 3, I believe. Let me go back. It's kind of broad brush things. I keep forgetting that I'm drawing, and I'm also slicing the storms at the same time. All right. So northeast Albemarle County, big one around Lynchburg right now. Everywhere west of these warnings now in the clear. That's the good news. Bad news is, folks, Farmville, Charlotte Courthouse, Halifax, Roxborough, Danville, it's coming at some point. These cells are on the way. On the way to Alta Vista. They're on the way to Gretna, especially Alta Vista. You may get a warning soon. Technically, you are not in a warning, but I do anticipate a cell being strong enough. This may actually develop into something severe here any second right now. Looking at the latest data here from all the chats to see if anything's coming in that's new report-wise. And I'm going to show you some additional imagery. I do want to show you what I was looking at earlier, and I did post this right before all the warnings came out. So if you go back here, notice the wind direction. This is off of GR Earth. You see these little arrows there. I'm going to put those in pink. So this is what the wind is doing at the surface. These are actual observations. So from Raleigh up to Danville, it's coming in out of the southeast. That's the same thing through Halifax and South Boston. These are southeast winds. So why is that a big deal? Even Greensboro is east-southeast. Well, that's a big deal because once you go up into the atmosphere, the wind aloft is coming in from the southwest and the west, coming in like that. And then if you go in between there, back to the surface here, on the back side of this, you've also got wind that's coming in from the north behind this and more from the northwest. And in between is where you're getting these little areas of rotation. Now, notice how that lines up here. What I've got in the filled area, this blob of yellow and blue, this is the significant tornado parameter. And that's analyzed every few minutes off of the rapid update analysis. And you can see that is lining right up with those southeast winds. So whenever you've got southeast winds combining with west winds aloft, you can almost eyeball the area of the greatest severe threat and the greatest tornado threat. And so right now that continues to be areas from Lynchburg and the Farmville, an enhanced area almost showing up from Danville, going into South Boston and Charlotte Courthouse. This area we really have to watch, I think, in the coming hour or hour and a half as this activity continues to move off to the east. There's your latest plot, and you can see how I was highlighting that. And now if we show the very latest, you can see that the Storm Prediction Center agreed. That's almost exactly where we put our area to watch. So this is the severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 1. That also includes you in Richmond, just south of D.C. It looks like they're considering another watch up around Philly and Atlantic City. They've got some 50 to 55 to even a 64 mile per hour wind gust up there. Loudoun County is getting some tree damage there on Potomac Drive as the reports are coming in. We've got also enhanced stuff here around Charlotte, but we don't have a lot of moisture down south. So really, we are in the eastern part of the area, and I'd say it's pretty much Lynchburg and Martinsville, and then to the east toward Winston-Salem. This area in the watch is the area that still has a chance of very strong straight line winds and or a tornado embedded within there. And we may not know that till later. You know, there may be a small spin going on in here that we don't see until we get the damage later in the day tomorrow or whatever. So if you got any damage and it's safe to report it, you can send it to me and I'll let the Weather Service know, or you can send it to them directly. These are rotational tracks. We've got something called MRMS, which looks at the rotation. So we don't have to, basically. It's a little delayed, but it shows tracks of rotation, and it's useful because it can show us where these storms are spinning and the track of those storms. And the one that really jumps out here is the Henry County storm. You can see how it started down here in the North Carolina, Surrey and County, and moved into southern Patrick County. But then as you go into Henry County, those red values there showing us that, yeah, we've got we definitely have something spinning here. Hasn't tightened up, but that's definitely a track of rotation that's showing up there, and it continues to evolve. So this is an ongoing thing that's happening in Henry County right now, and that's why I'm still broadcasting live, because we could see that tighten. If it doesn't tighten, we'll still have severe storms and straight line winds, and even possibility of a wall cloud or whatever with this can be very impressive at times. Notice we've also got a few more blotches showing up, another area of rotation. That's the Franklin County, Figgsboro area, Henry County, right on the county line there. There's the one area of rotation there, and the cold cloud top around it there showing up in orange. That is south of Union Hall and northwest of Howlands. Kim Gilly says hello. She's in horse pasture. She's my friend, and she often reports to me on what's going on there. She confirms the storms are spinning as they moved just south of her location just now via text message. So Westlake Corner, I'm still watching your area, but especially this area from Alta Vista, Gretna, Mount Airy, Chatham, Volans, Brookneal, and then areas that are highlighted here in South Boston, Virgilina, Clarksville, Chase City, and again, Danville. We want to keep you guys in mind. Caswell County too. Lynchburg, that's not the edge of the warning, that's the edge of the watch. So if I take the watch off, you can see, let's see, let me do that. You can see the actual polygon here. They're both yellow, so I don't want to confuse you. But strong cell there, and you can actually see some weak rotation, but again, we looked a little higher up in the storm because that's farther away from the radar, but we do have a few broad areas of very weak rotation. But the one that's really jumped out, and here we go, tornado warning is in effect for southern Henry County and Ridgeway. I told you that was going to come at any moment if we saw that. So this is a tornado warning that's in effect for Henry County, and this tornado warning is also in effect for Pittsylvania County. That's in effect until 7:15. At 6:47, a severe thunderstorm warning capable of producing a tornado was located over Chatmoss near Martinsville, moving northeast at 30 miles per hour. The hazard, of course, obviously being the tornado and the quarter-sized hail. Flying debris is going to be dangerous to anyone caught without shelter. Mobile homes could be damaged or completely destroyed in a tornado. Damage to roofs, windows, and vehicles will occur. Tree damage is likely. Now, your locations here are obviously Martinsville. It looks like it's going to pass just south of Martinsville, but the southern end of Martinsville, Axton, Callens, Leatherwood, Swansonville, Chatmoss, and Sandy River. It includes the Martinsville Speedway and the Martinsville Airport. Take cover now. Move to a basement or an interior room on the lowest floor of a sturdy building. Avoid windows. If you're outdoors, in a mobile home or in a vehicle, you need to move to the closest substantial shelter. Don't try to drive out and get to a place. You need to already kind of be in an area where you know you can go inside and get away from windows. Get in under a workbench. Bathtub will work. If you've got a football helmet laying around or some kind of helmet for your head or hard hat, put that on. That'll keep the debris from hitting you as much if there is debris in this thing. I tell you, it really tightened up there, and I was expecting this about any time. That's impressive rotation there that's moving through Henry County at the moment. You folks that are in Callens and Blairs, you don't have it on your doorstep yet, but that tornado warning and that red polygon is something that is being issued because of the trying to give you some lead time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. That's in effect again. The warning is in effect until, what was it, 7:30? 7:15, okay. So another 20 minutes or so, 24 minutes. So let's go to the close-in radar here. You can see all the lightning associated with this, but we definitely want to look at the actual velocity. And you see a very strong velocity couplet here near the Chatmoss area and south of Laurel Park and south of Axton. That is some very strong wind. Notice that on my radar picture, I go from the orange back into the green, and that's because that's called range folding, and that's basically higher amounts of wind. That's almost too much for the radar to even guess at. So this is strong rotation. No doubt there's probably a wall cloud with this. There could be a funnel with this that's going away very strong here from the radar, and then you've got this green that's curling in closer to the away signature. And that's why you have a tornado warning issued for that area. That's storm relative velocity. That's just regular old velocity. Sometimes one may show up better than the other, but that's some impressive rotation. It's not the tightest I've seen, but it certainly screams tornado warning, at least the chance of one. I'm leaving the markers up on your screen because you can still see some leaves and stuff in the air showing up in the orange and yellow colors. Don't see any like major debris with this. I definitely see some leaves being blown around, probably off the trees, as we are at that time of the year. And again, we were looking 3D in the storm to look at the updraft. It's important to note that these tornado warnings, a tornado, the two main ingredients, it's not just the spin. You've got to have the lift. You've got to have something sucking the wind up into the thunderstorm. And so like when you see a dust devil in the summertime, that's because you don't really have a lot of spin, but you've got a lot of heat causing the air to be very buoyant, and then it starts to spin. So if one of those, is there and then the other is not so much, you can still get something spinning. But when you've got them both there, and we do now, that's why we've got the tornado warning now in effect, we are seeing a tremendous amount of lift. We're seeing that convergent area move right on through. And we told you about 2 or 3 days ago on Patreon that this area of Henry County would be an area to watch. And it looks like the models have verified on that. There you see the circulation now. We're in a hyper refresh mode here. That radar is spinning very fast, so it can give us the latest on this. And it's hard to ignore. Again, you see that blue pixel there, southwest of Axton. You need to be getting into a shelter, and you need to take this serious as a heart attack. This is a very dangerous thunderstorm, and it is moving off to the northeast. It's going to come very close to Brosville. It's north of Sandy Level. So if you're in Sandy Level right in itself, you're probably okay, but you're probably seeing some high wind on the back flank of this thing as it's coming on through the area. Still don't see any major signs of debris, but I do see a lot of leaves, what could be hail, and some very heavy rain in this thing. A very strong updraft as well. Let me look at the updraft strength real quickly here. You'll bear with me. Yeah, right there. So it's just to the southeast of Martinsville. We have that very strong updraft there. That's pretty much highlighted by the red pixels there. It doesn't line up exactly in the real world like that, but that's where we're seeing it. Now I'm looking at something called spectrum width as well. This shows me where the wind is changing within each radar block. So if I zoom in here, you see each individual pixel. What the radar does is it says, the algorithm says, how much is the wind changing within each pixel. And if it doesn't change a lot, it shows up as gray and some light blue. But if it starts changing a lot, it goes into the red and the yellows here. So what we're seeing is that we're seeing a lot of variable wind right there on the southern flank of the storm. That's more than likely some straight line stuff coming around the southern edge or the rear flank downdraft of the storm. But sometimes what will show up near the center, if you do have a tornado or at least a mesocyclone, you will see an area of yellow very close to the area of spin. But to me, it looks like it's somewhat outflow dominated, and that could be some good news in that it's not tightening up tremendously. But if you had it right there, right near the area of rotation, well, let's see, area of rotation is actually... So let me put an X over where the spin is, or we'll put a triangle. There's where your possible tornado is. All right, and again, that's just south of Axton. It's going to jump into Pennsylvania County here very soon, but it's going to be rain wrapped, so you're not going to be able to see this. The inflow notch is near Axton as well, right there on 58. It's trying. We've got that cell that's popping way up into the sky now at 36 36,000 feet. Very strong updraft to the north of that. So continuing to watch for any signs of debris lofted into the air. I'm continuing to wait and see if we have any reports coming in too. That's a big polygon. That includes Laurel Park and Martinsville as well. That also includes the Callens area. And some parts in this polygon here, the reason that may be in effect as well for a good part of Pennsylvania County isn't just for the lead time, but we've got these other areas of relatively lower spin that are near Callens. You can see where the lightning's kind of jumping out at Callens. And then you can see the initial cell here, Sandy Level. That still to me looks a bit broad. It may have just become more outflow dominant. And what I mean is when you have a tornado, you kind of have a combination of upward updraft motion combined with downdraft motion. And at some point, the tornado diminishes because the cooler, rain-cooled air, and that's the outflow, chokes off the inflow. And so what will happen is that'll choke that off and the tornado will diminish or the rotation will broaden back out. We can have that cycle back and forth. So it's very important to respect the expiration time of 7:15. That's another 17 minutes still because this thing could cycle back up. It's somewhat broad at the moment, but it's definitely there. So let's go back and look at it as it developed. So we're going back in time here. And this is about when I went on the air and started telling you about this cell coming out of Patrick County. It's just south of Reynolds Homestead. Went just south of Spencer. Then the severe thunderstorm warning was placed. And you see that other area of rotation that was in Franklin County. This was at 6:30 when that came out. We watched this thing continue to spin. You can see it spinning like a top around Ridgeway. You also have this one right here on the Franklin County line that was spinning. And then the spin intensified. And when we saw those high velocities come in, that is when you're going to see this red polygon come out right there. That's when the Weather Service decided to go ahead and make that a tornado warning. So let's go from there, and you see the velocities come back down again. So we saw this cycle up, and now it's cycling back down. The threat may be a little bit lower, but it's still we're still going to hold that until 7:15. But right there, that was the strongest part of that rotation as it moved just north of Ridgeway and just south of Chatmoss near Axton. Now it's moving into Pennsylvania County. They're going to shave this warning away probably in a second for a good part of Martinsville. Martinsville, you're now in the clear, even though you're still technically in the polygon. The rotation is now entering Axton and Roseville. Now Callens still seeing that heavier storm. That was the other area I was watching very carefully of spin. Zooming back out just to show you too, we've also got some severe weather here going in the Nelson County, Amherst County, and Lynchburg itself. And then the Rustburg and Evington, Campbell County around Alta Vista, seeing a very strong storm with a little bit of spin embedded within that too. But this is the big one here that we're worried about. And it didn't come too far away from Rocky Mount, Ferrum, and Oak Level. It developed just off to our south, and I saw our power blink here at the station. We've been watching all day to see if Rocky Mount would be impacted because I do stuff for the town as well, and I like to keep them abreast of what's going on. That we came close in Rocky Mount. It was luckily for us. Usually somebody's good luck in a situation like this is somebody else's misfortune, at least with severe weather and at least getting your nerves kind of rattled because of all this. But you do need to take it very seriously. And again, it's a supercell thunderstorm that's rain wrapped, and it may be cycling back up now. I'm seeing a little bit more in the way of a notch developing again. It was pretty tight right there. I've seen signatures more impressive, certainly. But now what's concerned me is that I'm seeing kind of everything line up again. So I'm seeing several areas now of spin. You've got your main one here. this is where the possible tornado is. Just to the east and south of Axton, there's a second area that's weaker, but it's spinning. There's an area near Callens that is spinning. Now they're going to wait and see if any of these jump up into these brighter colors, okay? They're not bright enough. The velocities aren't strong enough yet. But all through this, we've got these small little areas that are developing in the storm. So when a storm's ingesting an updraft on a day like today, you've got winds that are crossing each other. And those winds get tilted this way. The winds are still crossing each other. That's called streamwise vorticity. And that streamwise vorticity basically means when the updraft's going up into the storm, it's not breaking apart. It's staying a solid cylindrical object that gets stretched as the storm pulls it up, and any other boundary that continues to kind of push together the area of rotation generates, we think, the tornado. There's some debate, actually. We don't know for sure when one develops, if it comes from the ground or a little bit of both. It comes from something wrapping into it. But we do know the more boundaries you have, the more chances you are for something to spin in a situation like this. So we did know today was going to be potentially active right in this area. The severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect for the larger part of Pennsylvania counties being continued until 7:30. They are tagging this yellow area tornado possible. Okay. 6:48. I'm still waiting on an update on this tornado warning. Let me show it to you graphically here in a different case, just to get your bearings. We do have that flashing area. That is where we have the severe thunderstorm watch in effect through 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, the 1 o'clock in the morning part is covering folks for basically Richmond into Chase City and Emporia. That's where the storms are going to be at 1 o'clock. So this entire area is the area to watch now through 1. But what is going to happen is as the line continues to move east, and it should be about right here at 9 p.m. It'll take it a couple more hours to get to Farmville, but it'll be just as strong potentially. It's not going to get to Petersburg and Richmond till about 1 o'clock in the morning. That's how they issue those. But you can see the jump in activity there. So now I'm going to take the watch off, and now we're just going to look at the warnings. And in fact, what I'm going to do is we're just going to look at the lightning and the polygon. So we're going to take the radar off. And this helps identify the areas and the folks that need to take shelter. So there's your tornado warning continuing for Route 58. Again, that includes Ridgeway. You've got the tornado possible in the yellow polygon with the severe thunderstorm warning because of the other areas of rotation that we were seeing there. But that's on Route 41, 57, very close to the county line right now is where I'm looking at the main area of rotation. And when you see the screen light up, that's a live lightning strike on your screen. A lot of folks don't like putting lightning on these maps, but they actually do help identify areas of stronger updraft strength. And there's some research that actually suggests that some of these lightning strikes that get stronger and more frequent right before a tornado is generated, or potentially an area of spin that could generate a tornado. So we call that a lightning jump. And we did have that happen. You've been watching at the beginning of the stream here. Away from windows, away from any exterior wall. If you can get below ground, that's the best place to be. And even once you go below ground, if you've got a pool table or a workbench, or you got a little closet underneath the stairs, that's where you want to hunker down. And you want to kind of put your hands over your head and protect yourself in a situation like this if you live in this part of Pennsylvania County and the Henry County areas. If you are in the severe thunderstorm warning area, that's including southern Franklin County, southeast Franklin County, into Pennsylvania County, you also want to treat this almost as if a tornado was nearing your area, because this is labeled tornado possible. That's why you see that wording there. What the Weather Service is saying is we can't guarantee that a tornado won't develop in this yellow area as well. Now, if you go up into the Lynchburg area, they do not have as much rotation showing up on their radar that we're seeing here as well. There's certainly a lot of heavy rain, straight line winds, thunder, and lightning. We're also farther away from the radar, so it's a little harder to see, but you notice you don't see tornado possible in this polygon. That's not to say some damaging straight line winds are not occurring in there. And now we've got another tornado warning in effect for Greensboro, issued by the National Weather Service out of Raleigh, North Carolina here. That's, let's see. For Guilford County at 7:05, a severe thunderstorm warning capable of producing a tornado 9 miles south of Bethany, 10 miles northwest of Greensboro, moving east at 45 miles per hour. So this is radar indicated. Looks like Greensboro is going to remain south of this, but I-40 here. So if you're going from Greensboro back to 68, you're going to be running into this potential area where we could be seeing a tornado. So now we've got 2 tornado warnings, one in I'm just going to say Pittsylvania County because I don't know about this Henry County part as much. And then you've got the other one north of Greensboro. I'm reading through some mid-level rotation, view of a wall cloud. That was in Tennessee. So let's go back here. Radar Omega. I have not used this yet. We need to. We're going to pick out areas that are seeing the highest rotation. This is a Radar Omega is a great software program or whatever they use, mainly because it's mapping capabilities. I can get right in here and show you exactly where the areas are that have the most rotation. So you can see this big tornado warning that's including Martinsville. Again, I'm more worried about this area here that I'm zooming into. So now we're in Pittsylvania County. We are just to the northwest of Danville with this potential tornado. Vance, Sharon, Stony Mill, West Fork, Brosville, technically not in the polygon, but you're in that high wind that's wrapping around the backside of this. There's your spin just to the south of Soapstone. About 750, as we mentioned. Sharon, Mount Cross, New Mount Cross in the path of this. We can go on in here tighter and get some actual neighborhoods popping up here. Sportsman Road, Tunstall High Road, Whitmell School Road, Sandy Creek Road, Garden Drive, West Sunrise Drive. You need to be, and in Whitmell, you need to be taking cover right now as this rotation continues to show up on radar and it's moving off to the north and to the east. It's weakened at times. It's strengthening just a little bit. It's fairly broad right now. We don't see that right next to each other, but we're also looking fairly high up into the atmosphere because of the Earth turning below the radar. We've also got some weak rotation near Bannister here, Flint Hill, and in the Rondo and just to the east of Callan. Callan looks like you've got some straight line wind blowing from northwest to southeast there, 57. And mainly just straight line wind through the Lynchburg area, but starting to see a little more in the way of a broad rotation now into Bucking, Appomattox, and northern Amherst counties. Wouldn't be surprised if this started to get going. And unfortunately, this is right where the Wakefield office takes over from the Blacksburg office, and north of there into Livingston, this is where the Sterling office takes over. So if you live right there in Appomattox and Dillon, you're right in that kind of zone where no radar is going to perfectly get you coverage-wise. But the weather services will do their job to hand things off to each other as those storms move on through. Now we're looking from the Blacksburg radar down here too at this Greensboro or Guilford County tornado warning. This broad rotation remains, it is broad, east of Martinsville. Still watching this area as the warning continues. Circulation trying to ramp up north of Cascade. That was at 7:09 2 minutes ago. So let's go back up here because we just got a update on this warning. So this is sent from Eric Taylor at the National Weather Service, who's watching this on our chat here. There's Stony Mill. And I see what he's saying there. Yeah, the colors are still getting kind of bright, and you've got to compensate for the fact of the radar height. They're continuing the severe thunderstorm warning for Amherst, Appomattox, and Lynchburg until 7:30. The warning for Bedford has been allowed to expire because the storm's moving out of Bedford now. So Bedford, you're okay. The storms are now still into the Lynchburg area, moving east toward the Alta Vista area. Spectrum width, see if we see any things standing out here. There's Callan. So again, Callan's Hills just to the west there is what they're talking about with that tornado warning. Correlation coefficient. Don't see anything that's too concentrated. There's your regular radar. So just to show you how heavy this rainfall is and how strong these storms are. Right along 29, and this tends to be an area that gets hit hard a lot in these situations, from Lynchburg down through Alta Vista and Gretna, all the way Martinsville, Eden, Wentworth. Don't want to forget this Rockingham County area because, you know, just over the line in both directions, you've got 2 tornado warnings near you in Eden. You've got one that's up in Virginia over the Virginia state line. You've got another one just to the south of you, south of Reedsville. So if you live north of Elon, or on 29, and let's see, what is that? 119, 158 in the Yanceyville. I would definitely in Yanceyville be very weather aware over the next hour or so. Danville, again, not under the warning, but Danville, listen. That one cell is going just north of you. Some of these strong straight line winds are coming down south of the polygon. And I am watching this stuff around the Eden area. If you look at our velocity, I see some couplets. All of them are competing for see if there's one of those that can take over. You see a bunch of little red and green notches together. That's some very tiny areas of rotation that are trying to see if one of them can become the dominant one. There's actually research done. You can look at it 3D. Lee Orr on YouTube has some tremendous research where he studied these supercell environments, and the invisible areas of spin that we were talking about, they will accumulate, and that's when a tornado forms. So you get like a accumulation of stacked vorticity areas that eventually combine, and then that's when you visually see the tornado. So that may be what's happening a little bit there as you look into Reedsville, Wentworth, and Eden, and Stoneville. Stoneville itself, I think you're maybe okay. You're on the west side of this stuff now, or getting on the west side of this. But Ruffin and the Danville, Yanceyville, you've got some rotation in a lot of little pockets that's nearing the area. Now, the tornado warning has now been allowed to, it's 7:15, so we don't have it anymore, but we still do have the broad area of rotation on the south edge of this, around the Stony Mill area. So watch out Mount Herman and Blair's, you need to watch out. Dry Fork as well. You've got straight line winds in Flint Hill nearing you out of Callens. You've got, again, Stony Mill, New Mount Cross, Callahan's Hills, Sharon, Vance. This is where we've got some rotation. Witt, Blair's, and this is Danville City. So we're going to have to watch that very close, that area right there. You may see another polygon very quickly issued by the National Weather Service. And you can see them trimming back the severe thunderstorm warning now. So if you're on the west side of Lynchburg Forest there, New London, you're in the clear. That just got dropped. The severe thunderstorm warning did. But we still have it in effect for southern Nelson County and also in the Amherst County. That one is in effect for another 14 minutes or so. This one is also in effect for another 14 minutes in southern Nelson County. Let me go back to the other radar pictures here we've got. So only one tornado warning now, and that's near Summerfield in North Carolina. You can see how that spun up. You also notice, I told you we like to track lightning. You can see that area spin. This is before the warning was issued over Walkertown. They've got the track there. If you go through Walkertown, there's literally a track on 158 at a stoplight. There's like a nursing home off to the left, and I know it because on 158 I used to pass through it all the time on the way to Asheville. It's a cool little town, but they had some pretty tight rotation a second ago off the Blacksburg radar. Passed right over Walkertown. As soon as it got into Guilford County, the National Weather Service in Raleigh put out a severe thunderstorm warning. And then over Summerfield, you see the lightning jump up. You see the reds and greens tighten there. That's when they put the tornado warning out. And now it's more of a broad area of rotation. Again, these things will cycle up and cycle down quickly. It remains in effect until 7:30, so for another 12 minutes for northern Guilford County. That possible tornado located 7 miles south of Bethany, or 9 miles north of Greensboro. Greensboro, you're okay for right now, moving east at 20 miles per hour. It's going to pass just to the south of Reedsville, though, it looks like. This tornadic thunderstorm will remain mainly over rural areas of northern Guilford County, including Hall River State Park, Lake Townsend Marina, Lake Townsend, Lake Jeanette Marina, and Monticello. But you do need to take cover in this area of North Carolina. And I'm seeing more rotation here south and east of Winston-Salem, south of Kernersville. So near Walberg here in North Carolina, there's a special weather statement out for this area as we're seeing some storms that are starting to develop little notches on them. You see that notch right there around Walberg? That could be something that maybe gets going. It's starting to spin, it's starting to show up on the National Weather Service radar. Looking more at straight line winds here with a little bit of spin near Gladys. That's a powerful storm. Leesville Lake. Gladys, Brooknell, and Volans need to watch out here. Concord, Appomattox getting slammed at the moment. Probably some hail north of Appomattox, south of Gladstone. Toga, Buckingham, Dillon, you're next in line for these storms as they continue to move east. Lots of lightning with this as well. Tremendous heavy rainfall with these. So I want to back everything out here because I want to give you an overall idea. I've got folks watching from everywhere. Somebody asked a second ago on TikTok about, I think it was Chase City, Emporia, this area. You need to still be advised that you are not out of the woods until probably midnight or so, 11:30 to midnight. It'll take it that long to get that far east. You can see how this evolved from just rain. It came off the mountains. Watch how the rain just goes away. That's because the storms developed. Once they crossed the Blue Ridge, they took all the moisture and basically pressed it into the moisture ahead of it. And so you got more of a dynamic, less coverage on the radar, but more intense on the radar. That's what happened. It took the rain, and it basically, it's like when you cook and you've got the dough out there and you're making cookies or meatballs with the hamburger meat or whatever, you're producing those tornadoes out of the moisture. And that's essentially how the atmosphere works. It's very fluid. It's actually amazingly fluid if you study it long enough. The good news is we just had that one tornado warning, but I don't like the look of that rotation. It's staying there in northern Guilford County. I also don't like this thing in Blair's. and I don't like these straight line winds in Chatham. That's some pretty strong wind there. It's about 40, 45 mile per hour wind showing up on the radar near Chatham, and a lot of lightning as well. And don't be fooled, north of Danville, it looks like Danville will miss this area of rotation, but once you exit Danville and go north in the Dry Fork and Blair's and Chatham, Spring Garden, there's still some rotation in this storm. So I don't want you to think that just because the tornado warning had been issued and now is not in effect, that the threat is over. You are under a severe thunderstorm watch for the possibility of tornadoes through 1 o'clock in the morning. And more urgently, we still have that area of rotation that's still being picked up on the Blacksburg radar here. So the warning here is about to go away. They're going to take that warning away at 7:22. I think this area of rotation is probably, there it went away. It's broad enough to where they're not putting a warning out for this yet. But if we get another warning, it's probably going to be for this cell here and the one for Chatham. And there's also some activity around the Gretna area as well. New warning in effect now. This is just for this continuation of this line. It's more of a line segment now. You've got some notches in here that bear watching, I think. But for Buckingham County now, this is issued out of the National Weather Service. No, it's still Blacksburg, but it's getting close to Wakefield. This is for Buckingham County, Appomattox County, Northern Charlotte County. We've got the storms moving northeast at 50. So some 50 to 60 mile per hour winds in a straight line fashion possible here. Quarter-sized tail. Dillwyn, Red House, Pamplin City, Madisonville, and Cullen. Buckingham, Appomattox, both included in that. Large hail, too, a lot of lightning, a lot of heavy rain, and some local street flooding. The only good news here is we're picking up some much-needed rain. We had a big brush fire in Bedford County near Evanston, near the county line yesterday evening. Not sure if they got that under control or not. I feel like they did with the rain that we had today. But everything continues moving off to the east. So most of the area except for Danville, Charlotte Courthouse, and areas east of Lynchburg are now in the clear. I do want to show you what's behind this. We do have a cold front there in the blue. This thing is going to come in behind the storms. It's going to wait a bit. But this is going to wake you up in the morning. Not from thunderstorm activity, but what will probably happen tonight after these storms move east is we'll have about a 3 to 6 hour lull where we may see some patchy dense fog develop in some of the valleys too. But there's some cold air back here. And the storms have outran the front. The front's going to start moving through about midnight to 4 a.m. in our local area. So you're going to notice the wind picking up. The winds could probably top 50 miles per hour if you live on the Parkway. These are non-thunderstorm winds later tonight, so the storms will be over and gone with. But if you live on Bent Mountain and areas, into the NRV, these peaks here around Giles County, Mountain Lake, and up in Monterey, some of the higher elevations of Roanoke County, you are going to notice that wind. It's probably already out there in some extent, but it's going to get real strong tonight. Now, the valleys may not see the wind until the sun comes out tomorrow and heats things up and gets us mixing. But we're going to be, today we got up into the upper 70s to near 80. Tomorrow we'll be lucky to get to 55. It'll be about 25 to 30 degrees colder than it was today. It will be absolutely blustery compared to what we've been used to. So you're going to need a heavy coat tomorrow, and you're going to need whatever to keep you warm during the day. I don't want you to be caught off guard by the temperatures. They're going to be quite a bit colder in all areas tomorrow, and the mountainous areas may not get out of the 40s. Let's go back down across North Carolina. Look at this velocity one more time. Not super impressive. The velocity up in Blair's is more impressive a little bit than down in North Carolina, but Raleigh is responsible for this warning. And again, that's going to stay in effect until 7:30, so another 4 minutes. So we'll hang on and see if they extend that. And by the way, the tornado possible warning, we've got a tornado possible in the severe thunderstorm warning coming out of Sterling until 8 p.m. for Culpeper, Orange, Spotsylvania County, up on the northern edge of this line. So we've been showing you these rotational tracks there. You see that one? There's another area of yellow and red, and the current rotation there north of Greensboro. You see weaker rotation in the Lynchburg, more of a straight line wind threat. And you get up here in the Fredericksburg, coming out of Unionville and Orange, you've got some yellow showing up there. This severe thunderstorm warning is now in effect. So it's nearing Fredericksburg, but there's some rotation in this as well that the Sterling folks are watching. So we're probably going to see maybe, or we could see some areas of possible tornadoes and tornado warnings coming out throughout the night from DC down to Richmond. All right, so we've got a new severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible for North Carolina folks, Davison, Forsyth, Guilford, Randolph County until 8:15 down here for this cell. So you're going to see that pop up any second right now. There it goes. That's a large warning. Includes Thomasville, Greensboro. This is until 8:15. Does not officially include Asheboro, but if you're on 40 going north there, 220 Randleman, 1 Pleasant Garden, Jamestown, Walberg, and Welcome, Lexington, you are under the severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible. There's the radar picture. That's kind of a broad look at it. And you can see that line there. But it's these southeast winds that are the problem. So you've got the southeast winds coming in. You've got this area of low pressure. It looks to me like you've got a couple of areas of low pressure. But let's just trace it out here real quick. Southeast wind in the Greensboro, like that. Coming into Danville. Southeast wind out ahead of this line. And then you've got northwest winds, southwest winds, northeast winds. Everything's kind of converging here along this line. And then aloft, you've got a westerly and southwesterly wind coming over top of that. So that gives you a lot of wind shear. And that's why the Storm Prediction Center has the severe thunderstorm watch in effect. I'm going to regroup. We've got a few warnings that I'm going to post about. There's drier air aloft moving in. Once this moves through, we'll just have some wind and some showers throughout the night tonight. But if you live along and east of Appomattox and in the Danville and Greensboro and to Asheboro, Farmville, Richmond, South Hill, Blackstone, Roanoke Rapids, Emporia, Chase City, Keysville, Victoria, this area, you still need to watch out for the possibility of tornadoes for about the next 3 hours or so, I'd say. Maybe even longer near Richmond and Lexington Park there near the bay. More to come as needed. Stay weather aware, folks.